I had a lot of questions regarding COVID. Everybody's very concerned about this COVID thing. Uh, there's apparently a disease out there. Some people believe it, some people don't. And it's on the one hand a health issue, on the other one it's a very, very clear political issue. Okay, some people think it's just politics. Other people think it's a health issue. Okay, and so I had questions or comments on both sides of the fence there, right? And here's a series of comments I got from the people who looked at it from a health point of view. Okay, we have: do you understand that coronavirus have many animal vectors? So in 6 months, the virus will mutate, evading the vaccine. Uh-huh. In other words, we develop new strains, right? Because we're putting these vaccines, so the virus mutates, and now you got to invent a new vaccine to kill that guy, right? He's a little more powerful. The vaccine seems to be affecting fertility, someone says. Oh, Jesus. So I guess negatively, right? Do we know maybe it affects us positively? Maybe it gives you more kids? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what affecting fertility means. It could be positive for all I know, all right? You are not a 100% organic human anymore. I never was. I have, well, in my case, I have very little inorganic stuff, but I know people who wear glasses and that's already inorganic. Some people have their teeth replaced. That's also quite inorganic, and so on. So we're already quite inorganic just about everywhere. We do a lot of artificial stuff on our bodies. People who do tattoos, man, that's maybe half the population, the young population, does tattoos. So that's quite inorganic. You're putting all this ink inside your under your skin, right? And people who have prosthetic legs or whatever. So we're already half robots, half androids. There's a lot of inorganic stuff out there, and it's in great measure because people need help of some kind. Not everybody is born healthy, or someone has an accident or whatever, and they need to get some of these things done. That's all it is. We know you didn't get jabbed. You're too smart to think viruses are real. Well, I can tell you, it's a subject I know very little about, so I don't get involved in that. And it's a subject I care little about. That's why I don't even research it. But my overall theory is, I guess, the one the establishment has, okay, and that is that there are bacteria out there and viruses. We see them under the microscope, the bacteria. Something caused the bubonic plague, your Xena pestis, and so on. And so, there are some bugs there, some microscopic bugs out there. And to say that, these bugs multiply inside your body could be virus, which is really a molecule that reproduces itself, or bacteria, which is actually a living entity that reproduces itself. For me, it sounds logical. And that's all I can tell you. Some people say, well, they have different theories for this, and I've looked at some of those theories, and I'll stick with the official version for now. Okay, that's all I can tell you. That's the one I operate under, unless someone can show me in a clear-cut manner that there are no bacteria or viruses out there. And yeah, I can imagine that there are a lot of these bacteria and viruses that multiply and hurt your body, and there are at the same time bacteria that you have in your body that are useful, that we develop a symbiotic relationship with, so to speak. Okay, and they kind of protect us. Okay, uh, I heard that the what is it, Komodo dragons has like 80 or 90 almost unknown bacteria in its mouth, and when it bites its prey, it doesn't kill it, and the prey runs away and says, "Oh, phew, I made it." And it turns out those bacteria are so powerful they kill the animal, and then the dragon comes slowly in there and just eats it up, because he killed him with the bacteria he's got in his mouth. And so they looked at these bacteria, and then these are something you can look under the microscope. Of course, you got to be in that business, but if you're not in that business, you can't say, well, bacteria don't exist. Well, what are those? I mean, have you ever looked inside a microscope and seen any of these bacteria? So it's easy to talk and say, well, I don't believe in all that. Well, yeah, that's like, believing in God. It's like, I haven't seen God, so should I not believe in him or believe in him because, I can't see or touch him? What should I conclude? Okay, so, all I can do is tell you that I just go with the official version for now. And again, it's a subject that I'm not interested in at all, so I don't even research it. And someone says, you got a death sentence. Don't we all? We all have a death sentence ever since we're born, okay? So don't worry about that. Am I going to die of COVID? Am I going to die because they injected some poison inside my arm? Probably not either way. Okay, I'll probably die of something else, of arthritis, which is what I have for many years now. Okay. Okay. The other folk, they bring it from a political point of view. Okay, they say this is all a hoax. Okay, and so or it's a hoax, or they're using it to control you. Okay, one of the two. Could be it's total hoax, or it could be that it's real, but now the powers that be are using this to get a hold of you. You know, control your behavior. Watch out for new mysterious urges to conform, to support Biden, to submit. Okay, Biden or any politician for that matter, right? I just don't get the shot because I'm not going to cooperate with a new tyranny. My body, my choice. Okay, and I see it as their perfect excuse to usher in a global restructuring of society. I can't see it any other way, and they'll get it no matter how many of us go down kicking and screaming. Meaning they're going to triumph anyway, so why worry about it, right? I mean, if they're going to win anyways, if they've got us controlled and we can't do anything about it, maybe you shouldn't even worry about it. Maybe don't lose any sleep, don't fight it anymore, right? What should we conclude? And so, we have these issues. Is there COVID out there? Is there a real bug out there? That's the first question we got to look at. And again, people say, well, Bill, you just don't believe in conspiracies and whatever. And no, I'm going to say it in reverse. I'm no stranger to conspiracy theories. So here are some of my arguments. Let me put them up here so that we can follow along. Okay. First, I'm no stranger to conspiracy theories. Okay. I say that Lincoln was murdered not by, well, the gunman was John Wilkes Booth, but what I'm saying is it wasn't Johnny who masterminded this thing. I think it was Edwin Stanton, who was Lincoln's Secretary of War, and I think him, and together with a whole bunch of other Northerners who wanted to take over the South, okay, Reconstruction as it came to be called later on after Lincoln's death, they masterminded the murder of Lincoln, okay, and I've gone through there and looked at in the past. Just skipped over it more or less, skimmed over it. I say Roscoe Conklin was a stalwart that masterminded the murder of James Garfield. Okay, the trigger man was Guiteau, Charles Guiteau, but they were all stalwarts, and I think they perhaps with Chester A. Arthur, they realized that Guiteau was a little off his rocker, and I think they kind of manipulated him into killing Garfield. All of them are all these conspiracies. No, I'm saying that, for example, what's his name? Leon Czolgosz, guy who murdered, assassinated President McKinley. I think he acted alone. He was one of those few lone gunmen, okay, anarchist, and I think he acted alone. I looked at that history in quite a bit of detail, and I don't think there's anything in there. On the other hand, Lee Harvey Oswald, no, not a lone gunman by no by no stretch of the imagination. Okay, there's just too many people involved in there, with Lee Harvey Oswald. Among them, Ruby, who. He was interviewed by the press once, and he said, the people who put me in this situation. And they asked him, like, who do you recommend? Who are you referring to? He says, the man upstairs, look at the man at the top. That was Johnson. And I'm sure that Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover masterminded the killing of both Kennedys, Robert as well, and also of Martin Luther King. They got rid of him. And 9/11, obviously George Bush, no problem there. This was a U.S. and Mossad operation. Okay, it's a standard practice for them, normal stuff, nothing to be excited about. Okay, it was an exciting thing to see, the towers being bombed. Okay, but to believe that this was done by some barefooted hillbillies in Afghanistan, well, I don't think so. So I'm not a stranger to conspiracies, but the question is, how far are you going to take it? I mean, are we going to say everything is a conspiracy? Everything. There was no Julius Caesar. He never existed. They just put his name in the book somehow. And no Napoleon. None of these people existed. Maybe Joe Biden and Trump don't exist either. Maybe these are just cartoon characters created by, I don't know, the Klingons. And what you're staring, I mean, did you ever shake the hands of Joe Biden? I mean, so you never seen him directly, right? Never shook hands with him. So maybe Joe Biden doesn't exist. Maybe this is just a hoax. I mean, how far are we going to take this whole thing? Okay? So what you don't want to become is an extremist in COVID. You don't want to be a flat Earth COVID, a COVID flat earther. Okay, it's how far you want to take it, and so you got to choose your conspiracies a little more carefully. If you think that the Earth is flat and everything's a conspiracy, and that NASA never sent the man to the moon, and that there are no real satellites orbiting the Earth, that we're communicating through sardine cans or whatever, okay, you can take it as far as you want. I mean, at some point it goes into the ridiculous level. So, is there a COVID out there? Well, I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert on the subject. All I can tell you is my reasoning. My reasoning is that I have a hard time believing, okay, that Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, and the United States have reached an agreement before the pandemic, right? And they said, why don't we control our population? Why don't we create this notion that there's a disease out there, okay? And that'll give us a chance to implement laws that will help us control them. I have a hard time with that all these countries got together. Humans are like lions. We don't share our prides with the other guy. We have to fight. We compete, okay? And to say that they all got together and they all agree and that they form this Illuminati, New World Order people who control the flocks, and that they all agree up there, I have a hard time believing that. I have a hard time believing that, for example, Israel and the Palestinians, they all agreed up at the top levels, and they said, why don't we tell our respective people that there's a COVID bug out there so that we get all these vaccines and, stab them with them and, and we can control them better. No, I have a hard time believing that. I think that's taking this disease thing a little too far. Okay? No, I think there's got to be something out there if all these countries that have nothing in common with each other implemented some health measures to control some kind of pandemic that's spread throughout the world. And again, I have no trouble believing that some virus has infected the population and spread. It happened with HIV, by the way, and so, it's happened with the Bubonic Plague in the 14th century and so on. There's been plagues, we've had smallpox, we had, so many of them out there. We had the yellow fever in, the end of the 19th century, 1880s and so on. So we've had diseases affect large portions of the population, and to say that these were all hoaxes, that there was no real disease out there, that there are no real bugs that we can see under the microscope, I think that just takes it a little too far, okay? At least for me, okay? So all I can tell you is that. Okay, so I'm saying there is a bug, and now did they take advantage of that? Politicians, hospitals, healthcare workers, whoever. Yeah, I think there's always that human aspect, okay, that people suddenly, take advantage of something that's out there. In fact, as soon as the COVID thing hit, you had all these people selling masks, others trying to corner the markets for cleaning material, and so on. That's normal human behavior. Does that mean that these people in advance created the virus so that they could corner the markets on cleaning material or whatever? Hospitals, saying, oh, now we're going to have good business. We're going to have more people here at the hospitals. It's not going to be for heart attack or anything like that. It's going to be for this inexistent disease called COVID. Is that what all these hospitals around the world did? I have a hard time believing that. Okay, in other words, that they took advantage after the thing came out. Yeah, no doubt there. But that doesn't imply it doesn't follow that they created the bug, an inexistent bug, just to get all these situations. Okay, that's where I have a problem. And again, you have some winners and some losers. The tourist industry, what the hell? Okay, no more hospital, no more hotels, no more restaurants, no more flights. Everybody stayed at home. And some companies like Amazon, they did well because now people are requesting things through the internet. And they say they have all these delivery guys just deliver them the things to their houses. And there's a difference also in the way of thinking of people who have to go out there and work with lots of people versus the guy who's either unemployed or works at home office. That guy says, oh yeah, it's all a hoax and I don't believe in all that. Yeah, because you're at home, you don't have to deal with people. You don't have to, be with the crowds. That's a little different than the guy who's got to be, out there with whatever job he's got where he's got to meet lots of people. And he might say, well, I don't believe, but just in case I'm going to get the shot, or I believe a little bit because, I'm going to be facing lots of people and maybe one of them gives me the bug. And just in case, I'll be on the safe side and I'll believe a little. So that's different guy who stays at home and, and just philosophizes. Okay? We have different situations there. So if you're too much into saying that this is a hoax, maybe you just don't have a job. Maybe that's all you're saying. Maybe you're on welfare or whatever. Okay, so yeah, once the bug is out there, a lot of people take advantage, make money off of it, and that unfortunately creates these suspicions which are totally justified. People say, hold it, all these people making money off of this? Yeah, and that's what they're doing, okay? Okay, so my corollary is just, don't be a flat earther. Don't be a COVID flat earther. Don't take extreme views on this. Keep it within range, okay? And all I can tell you is, in my case, I took the shot only because I'm going to be traveling. I didn't take it for a year and a half because I wasn't planning on traveling during that time, and I did travel. But then when I went to Iceland, I found out how the authorities can make life very difficult for you. And I showed you last time, here's one case, a couple of news items that came out. These are just a headline. Chicago now asks unvaccinated travelers to quarantine. Another one, Biden administration tells unvaccinated people don't travel over Labor Day weekend. Europe wants unvaccinated Americans to stay at home. Okay, here's a couple more that I picked up this week. Netherlands tightens travel restrictions on U.S. unvaccinated banned. Vaccinated will need to quarantine. American Airlines and pandemic leave for unvaccinated staff. And so on and so forth, okay? So do you think I'm going to fight City Hall? I mean, if you want to, go ahead. You want to make a point. You want to say, well, they're not going to vaccinate me. They're not going to control me. In this case, I accepted the chip inside my head because it was easier to accept that than to fight all this nonsense that they're putting out there. They've got so many restrictions now on people who are unvaccinated. You might as well, if you're going to travel, be on the safe side and just get vaccinated. I mean, so far it hasn't killed me. I'm going to give my second shot on the 23rd of September. And after that, I don't think I'm going to die immediately, at least. Will I catch the bug? Maybe I catch the next version of it. Maybe the Mu, the Delta, the Zeta, or whatever. I mean, I don't know what next virus, the next strain will be. Okay, I might catch that and it might kill me for all I know. I didn't get the virus, the vaccine because of health reasons. I got it only because I don't want the hassle when I travel. That's it, period. You want to take it further than that, that's fine. So that's it. And so my only issue with this whole vax issue is the draconian economic measures the politicians have taken. And so the question is, will the economy recover from the draconian measures implemented by politicians? I was speculating, you could say, that maybe what we should have done is allow the bugs to kill whoever they had to kill. Just let it do its natural job. Don't create any vaccines. Don't put any economic. You want to create vaccines, fine, no problem there. But don't implement any measures, political and economic measures, socio-political economic measures. Let people just do their regular work normally. Let the tourism industry just continue going as it was, normal, as if nothing happened. And those who die, die. Maybe more people would have died. No doubt about that, probably, right? But at least we wouldn't have messed with the economy. And so the question is, if saving a few lives, I'll even call it 1 million lives, was that worth taking all these extreme measures that will probably kill us faster now? Because what they've messed around with is what is really the cause of extinction, and that's the economy. Bugs are not going to kill humans. It's going to be the economy that's going to kill humans. And with this, I think they've kind of accelerated the process, okay? I think it would have been better if people died naturally, and those who wanted to get the vaccine, get it. Don't worry about anything else. Just get the vaccine, get yourself inoculated, get yourself to safety, and those who didn't want the vaccine, just continue normal. But don't mess with the economy. Instead, they mess with the economy through political measures, and I'm not even sure how many lives they saved. Maybe they saved a lot. Even if they did, I think we simply accelerated the process towards extinction, which is messing with the real cause of extinction for man, which will be the economy. Okay, one person said, quarantine has historically been used to segregate those who are sick. He's got a point there, okay? You don't jail the healthy, you jail the sick. You don't jail the honest people, you jail the criminals, right? And here they did it in reverse. They put all the honest people in prison, and they said, you got to stay in there because we're protecting you. Okay? And so he says, tyranny is when the entire population is restricted from movement without permission. Okay? Propaganda is when the media becomes the tool of those in power to promote tyranny under the pretense of quarantine for your health benefit. Okay? Yeah, and historically, I think they've, when you've look at history, it was people who had the bubonic plague who were isolated. They would put a person who had bubonic plague, they would put him inside his room, keep him in there in the poor slums, right? And everyone in his family had to be in there together, and they would lock the door from the outside and bolt it in. And there was a guy standing outside, put there by the government to make sure no one came out of that room. Okay, so the person who had bubonic plague, he was in deep trouble, and so was his family, because they were all in there with him. They could all die for all anybody cared, right? But they isolated that family from the rest of their neighbors. And you've got this all over the lepers. They were put into colonies. You had lepers. Lepers were put into colonies, and so they always isolated those who were sick. Now they're isolating or messing around with those who are not sick. That's a little different this time around. That makes people suspicious, obviously. Okay, here's another philosophy, Virology 101. Never mass vaccinate during a pandemic, as the vaccinated will create evolutionary pressure, resulting in more deadly strains by selectively destroying the weak viruses while promoting the more robust strains. Okay, and he's probably right as well. I mean, the question, does it make sense to vaccinate in a pandemic? Are you just accelerating the process of creation of new strains? And so these are all good arguments as far as I'm concerned, right? And again, I didn't get the vaccine because of health issues. Nothing related to that. It's not that I panicked or anything like that. I could care less about the COVID. I don't even know it exists out there, But since I'm going to travel, I don't want the hassle. And I think I'm going to get the hassle anyway, because I'll just give you for instance, I'm going to go to a fourth world country, and it turns out that, I'm worried about not being able to get out of there. Okay? Vaccine or no vaccine, they say, well, Bill, you tested positive for in your PCR test, you put it up your nose and your mouth and so on. And maybe you don't have the COVID, maybe you don't have anything in there, but they say, well, you failed the test. So now you can't get on the plane, you can't return. And maybe they just want, you to grease their hands, So you might get into one of those situations where maybe they mess with you, whoever, is the judge in your situation, where you have to grease some hands in order for them to put that stamp that allows you to leave the country. Okay, so I'm worried about that more than the COVID. Okay, so that's what's happening. And again, those are because of all these draconian measures that they've taken out there. Okay, here's a fellow who talks about extinction. Here we talk about extinction. The COVID is like a secondary issue. Okay, the only concern there I have with COVID again is whether the issue about the economics, the fact that they've implemented such measures out there that affect us all. Okay, and that hurt the tourist industry. Hotels, restaurants, travel, airline travel, car rental, all that stuff. Okay, it says there was an economic collapse in the 1930s, and we are all still here. And Rome collapsed economically, and we are all still here. Okay, so he says there's been already collapses in the past. Okay, and that's true. I mean, we've had all kinds of depressions and recessions throughout history. Okay, but what's coming up is a little different. Okay, and here's the difference. Okay, let me just put some of the differences here. Oh, I got it on the other side. Give me a second here. Okay, and it's got to do with this globalization. Today we have globalization, something the Greeks did not have, the Persians, the Romans, none of those had globalization. Okay, they were local. Now we have something that extends throughout. We have global empires. Okay, here, the last empires, by the way. Okay, there won't be any more empires. There won't be a single empire on earth like a world government. Okay, communism followed by anarchism, where no government is needed after that. That was Marx's dream. I don't think it'll ever happen at all. We're not going to have a world government. And again, I'm saying that the United States is going to be the last major empire out there, and it will not allow anyone to surpass it. Before anyone surpasses it, there's going to be war, for sure. Okay, anyways, globalization is a problem, and I want you to understand that international commerce is anywhere from 1/4 to 1/3 of global GDP. Okay, so international commerce is very important. That means, and that wasn't the case in the days of the Greeks and the Persians, and even in the 1930s. 1930s, we were still moving from agriculture to manufacturing. We were still in this transition from one mode of production to the other mode of production. And it was in around 79, the days of the Standard, I can't remember now the name of it, where we around 1979, 1980, the Bretton Woods deal, right, Accords. That's when they switched over from manufacturing to services. And since then, services have ballooned. Okay, they left manufacturing behind, so we have a different economic system today than we had just 40, 50 years ago. Okay, and so international commerce is now a big factor out there for every economy on the planet. That's one issue. Services form up to for the whole planet anywhere between 65 and 70%, and in advanced nations even higher. It's 80% or higher. Services is most of the economy. And what is services? It's BS. Services does not produce anything. You got it there. All we do is scratch the other guy's back. I do a service for you, you do a service for the other guy, and the other guy does a service for the other guy. What is all that for? That all ends up in food. It allows you to buy food to live one more day, and maybe some other item like chairs and houses and streets, highways that are solid, that are real things. Other than that, services is an unproductive society. We're not producing anything with services. Okay, person sings, he didn't produce anything. And I know the economists are going to say, no, he produced something. He's got value. They use that word value. No, services is nonsense. There's no such thing as services. Okay, the only real stuff is what God sees from when he looks at the whole earth, or the devil, whoever you believe in, whoever you pray to. He sees the stuff that is real. The stuff that is real are highways, houses, the fields of corn, the boats, the cars, the airplanes. That he sees. He doesn't see the promises. He doesn't see insurance, okay? Or Bitcoin. He doesn't see that. That's nonsense. So all these services that we got out there, especially internet services, that's a BS economy. That can disintegrate like that, okay? And overnight, because that's all just faith. And so services is something different than what we had in the 1930s, okay? And then, it's I call it mass unemployment, okay? All we're doing is just scratching each other's back, and we call that, oh, he did a service for me. He scratched my back, and I scratched Joe's, and Joe scratched John's, and so on. Okay, that's all services is. It's a nonsense economy. And now we're in that non-productive economy. All that goes to produce what is real, which is a little bit of manufacturing, and almost, you could say, none in terms of labor and GDP of agriculture. And the only thing that keeps us alive is that 1% of agriculture. That's what keeps us alive. Agriculture and, livestock, et cetera, right? All that is what keeps us alive one more day. And we don't pay any attention to that. We don't pay attention to food because it's like we take it for granted. Food, what are you talking about, Bill? We go to the store, I can buy food anytime I want. It's always there. Yeah, I'll wait till the economy collapses. Let's see if you'll find it at your nearest grocery store. Okay, one person says, there is no doubt an economic collapse coming, and cities will be razed, many will die, and comforts will be sadly lost. But I don't think a mass extinction necessarily follows. You'll find communities forming outside of the cosmopolitan heartland communities. What people will form those communities if no one's left? After this collapse, you're going to see mass movements of these groups. Mass movement. What is this person talking about? No, there won't be any mass movements because there won't be any masses. We're going to collapse because if there is no food, why will there be any masses? Can the masses live without food? Where are they going to get food? What I'm saying is, food will not be produced because if money collapses, that's what we mean when we say the economy will collapse. No longer are we talking about a recession or a depression. We're talking about money disappears. No one believes in money anymore. No one accepts money anymore. That's the situation, okay? Long story how we get there, but right now we're saying money is no more. If money is no more, the corporations that produce food have no longer any need or any profit need, right? I mean, why are corporations in business? For profits. If there are no profits because money is no more, they have no reason to produce food or distribute it to the cities, much less to you. Why will you and the masses survive? So, again, that's why I always ask people to do Extinction 101 before they do Extinction 102. Please tell me how the dinosaurs died. And hopefully you won't say that it was a comet or an asteroid. Okay, no catastrophic accidents. Okay, no volcanoes, no new supernovas, gamma rays, none of that nonsense. Because you cannot explain selectivity with any of those gargantuan mechanisms. Okay, so you got to do mass extinction 101 before you do human extinction, which is 102. Okay, so and that's what happens when these people just say, well, the masses will survive and they'll move around and go this place and that place because there's going to be so much room. Yeah, sure. First, tell me how the masses will survive without food. Okay, that's what you got to explain. Okay, so here's the $1,000,000 question for anyone who wants to tackle it, okay? Will there ever be a last generation of humans? Will there ever be a last generation of humans? Because the first question you got to answer is whether humans will ever become extinct before the sun collapses, I mean, right? Because if it's in 1 billion years, that's essentially saying that you don't believe that humans are going to become extinct, okay? So the question is, for those who think that sense or have a sixth sense feeling that humans will become extinct someday, okay? The first question is, if that's the case, I would assume there's going to be a last generation, okay? And if there's a last generation, how are they going to die? In other words, what's going to kill them? Why is there going to be a last generation? Okay, what's going to kill them? Is it just because an asteroid hit the Earth? Is that what's going to kill us? We're going to wait for the asteroid, meaning that if no asteroid ever hits the Earth, we live eternally? Is that what you're saying? Or that if the asteroid comes and we see it through our telescopes and blow it up, I don't know, with a nuke, that we don't die either because we are able to take care of those kinds of problems because we can foresee the problem. We have the technology to address it, and therefore it doesn't kill us. So again, I'm talking about people who actually have this feeling, that humans will not live forever, and that they at some point will die. Will there be a last generation? And if so, right, how will that generation die? What will happen to them? Why will they die? What's going to kill them? I mean, aren't they intelligent? Can't they foresee events? Don't they have technology to counteract anything that God throws at them, any act of God? What's going to kill them? So you got to come up with a mechanism. That's the task, okay? For those, again, who believe that humans are going to become extinct. For those of you who are religious and believe that humans are going to live forever, the question is not for you.